All right, sports fans, how's everybody out there doing? William Martin coming at you one more time here on YouTube with another edition of the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge Podcast. The San Francisco 49ers can only wonder what could have been last January when starting quarterback Brock Purdy was lost to an elbow injury in their NFC Championship game loss to the Philadelphia Eagles, who throttled them 31-7. But today, the 49ers were at full strength when they went to Lincoln Financial Field for a showdown between these two NFC heavyweights. And what we saw was that when San Francisco was healthy, they can be very dangerous. And this team was clicking on all cylinders this afternoon and evening. San Francisco destroyed Philadelphia 42-19 as they served notice that it's not a guarantee that Philly is going to once again win the NFC. You look at this contest, and early on, San Francisco missed an opportunity to put San Francisco rather in a deep hole. The 49ers, the Eagles rather, they had a strong drive to begin the contest, and they had to settle for a 26-yard field goal from Jake Elliott. And then after slowing down this Niners offense, they got the ball back and put together another lengthy drive, and they had to settle for another Jake Elliott field goal. And after the first quarter, even though that Philadelphia had dominated, they were only up 6-0. From there, we saw this Niners offense get going to start the second quarter. They put together an 11-play, 85-yard drive that ate up more than 7 minutes of game clock, and it culminated when quarterback Brock Purdy connected with wide receiver Brandon Ayuk on a 2-yard pass to give San Francisco the 7-6 advantage. The 49ers would extend that advantage just prior to the end of the first half as they put together a 10-play, 90-yard drive that was culminated with a 2-yard run from running back Christian McCaffrey, taking the opening kickoff of the second half and marching right down the field for another touchdown to make it 21-6. And it looked like the momentum of this game had shifted because we knew that Philadelphia needed an answer when they were down 21-6. They were driving down the field. Of course, a lot of controversy ensued. The unnecessary roughness penalty on 49ers linebacker Dre Greenlaw when he picked up and slammed Eagles wide receiver Devonta Smith to the turf out of bounds on the Eagles sideline. There was a lot of pushing and shoving. We saw Greenlaw get ejected. We also saw the head of Eagles security get ejected as well because both him and Greenlaw were putting their hands on one another. So Philly did respond. Obviously, the fans were into the game. I mean, it doesn't take much to get the folks in Philadelphia, riled up. That is a very passionate fan base. And they love their teams, and when their teams aren't playing well, they're going to let them know as well. But nonetheless, the Eagles would score immediately after that to make it 21-13. But then San Francisco's immediate response, they put together another touchdown drive to go up 28-13. And then at that point, you know, they made the Eagles one dimensional because Philly had to go away from their run game. Their run game, even when the game was closer, really wasn't that much of a factor. And then when you're one dimensional like that and you have a team like the 49ers that have so many pass rushers up front, they just began to tee off and we saw them, just pinning their ears back. They had 3 sacks today, the 49ers of Jalen Hurts, but it seemed like it was more because they were consistently putting pressure on Jalen Hurts, consistently throwing off the timing of this offense, consistently getting him off of his spot to throw the football, and it made the difference. And then, of course, the 49ers just put the icing on the cake in the fourth quarter with 2 more touchdowns, and they went ahead and got the 42-19 win. But they got it going in the second, did the 49ers offense, and they just simply ran through this Eagles defense today like the Midnight Express. We're talking about a 49ers team. They racked up 456 yards of total offense, 146 of those on the ground, 93 from Christian McCaffrey. But then you look at the impact that Debo Samuel had: 22 yards rushing, 116 yards receiving. A lot of his what he does, of course, is the yak yardage, yards after the catch. And it starts with this offensive line for the 49ers. And again, it starts with Trent Williams. And Trent Williams and Debo Samuel basically went out of the lineup at the same time for San Francisco. So it's really tough to say whose return impacted them more. I will say this: with Debo, it shores up a lot of things at the skill positions, because now you got to pick your poison. Do you double McCaffrey? Do you double Kittle? Do you double Debo? But then with this offensive line, Trent Williams is a tone setter. Trent Williams, I know left tackle and right tackle are totally different, but he plays with a nasty, and I mean, and I've said this before, I mean it in a very good way. He plays with a nasty, like former Dallas Cowboys right tackle Eric Williams. And, that's what he brings not only to this offensive line, that's what he brings to this team, period. Trent Williams, rather, is one of those guys that, if you had to go throw hands with somebody in a fight, you definitely want him on your side. And that's the type of attitude that he brings out there with the 49ers. And we saw them, they just kept opening holes for Christian McCaffrey throughout this game. And then a lot of Christian McCaffrey's big runs were on the left side of the offensive line, of course, the right side of the defense. And when it was all said and done, credit to Kyle Shanahan, because he said, you know what, we're going to keep running to our left, and then we're going to keep doing it until you can prove that you can stop it. And for Philadelphia, they simply could not stop it today. Again, it was all about the big guns today for the 49ers on offense. You know, Debo, I talked about his contributions. George Kittle also had 4 catches for 68. Christian McCaffrey, then he also had 3 catches for 40 yards. And then Brock Purdy, of course. This makes life so much easier for Brock Purdy when his offensive line is shored up and the Niners are running the football. Brock Purdy did have some pressure today, but not a lot. 19 of 27 passing for 314, 4 touchdowns, and most importantly, 0 interceptions. And I talked about the Niners dialing up the pressure on Jalen Hurts. Was 26 of 45 today for 298. Obviously, if you're Philadelphia, you don't want Jalen Hurts attempting that many passes. The 49, pardon me, the Eagles rather attempted 48 passes today to just 18 rush attempts. They did have some big games from their receiver, their big time receivers. 8 catches, a buck 14 for AJ Brown, 9 catches, 96 yards, and a TD for Devonta Smith. But again, Philadelphia's offense is all about balance, and credit to this Niners defense for making them one dimensional. And how do you do that? You put them in a deficit. And that's what the 49ers did. The Eagles left the door open early. The Niners ran through it. And of course, the rest is history. You look at it, and honestly, the 49ers just serve notice, because to go into somebody else's building, and again, the Eagles, they have the best record in the NFL. They still have the best record in the NFL, but the Eagles are not accustomed to being bullied like they were today at the hands of the 49ers. And I guarantee you, this, is going to have them go back to the drawing board, because Philadelphia more than likely is still going to win the NFC East as long as they stay healthy. They still more than likely can have home field advantage throughout the playoffs if they take care of their business. But nonetheless, when you get punched in the mouth, you're going to remember it. And Philadelphia simply got punched in the mouth today. Now things just got a lot tighter in the NFC, as this loss by Philadelphia really helps Dallas, because Dallas hosts Philadelphia next week in another big time NFC showdown. However, this time around, Philadelphia, they're going to be looking to get back on track. But also, if they beat Dallas next week, it really basically it puts Dallas, in, I can't even say chase mode at this point. They just have to be content, if you will, more than likely to be the fifth seed, as they would be the top wild card in the NFC. They would have lost a tiebreaker to Philadelphia, but nonetheless, obviously, there's a lot on the line right there. So if you're Philadelphia, you got to lick your wounds very quickly and get back on track for another big showdown. And of course, Philly's schedule over the next couple of weeks, is not easy because it also includes a meeting with the Seattle Seahawks. But of course, if you're the 49ers, can you go back possibly to Philadelphia and beat them once again in January? Because yes, the 49ers won, they're 9-3 now, but they're still a game behind Philadelphia in the standings. However, with the way that the 49ers are currently playing, and if they can get on a roll, clearly if they finish tied with Philadelphia, the road through the NFC would go through Santa Clara. And I think that would be big because we've seen the 49ers get to the NFC championship game in 3 out of the last 4 years. The year that they won the NFC championship game, they had home field advantage. We saw the Niners be game 2 years ago as a wild card team, beating the Cowboys in round number one, beating the Packers in round number two, and simply not being able to get enough offensive plays against the Rams in the NFC Championship game in Inglewood. Last year, the Niners beat the Seahawks at home in round number one, beat the Cowboys at home in round number one, but then they had to get on that flight and go cross country to Philadelphia, and obviously things were different. And come January, if you don't have to get on that charter flight and go from one city to another, and you got to have somebody face you, and in this case, Philadelphia possibly having to come cross country on that 5 hour flight to the West Coast to have to take on the 49ers in an NFC championship game potentially. That means something. That stands for something. So the 49ers know they won today. They're still behind the Eagles in the playoff picture, at least in the NFC, but they've got to keep their foot on the throttle. The 49ers are clicking right now. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. You want to, this is the time of the year where you want to begin to play your best ball as you carry over into January, and you want to have that carryover, obviously, as you're looking to win a championship. The Eagles, I know some people are going to say, well, they haven't been playing good, this, that, and third. They're still 10-2, and the Eagles just keep finding ways to win games. Obviously, that was not the case today. The Eagles are 10-2, and I still feel like they have not played their best ball as of yet. So it's going to be very interesting to see if and when the Eagles do play their best ball, how things are going to look. But for Philadelphia, they've got to get back to their identity. I know that they have a lot of talent at the wide receiver position, but their identity is running the football. And it's going to be interesting to see what moves are going to be made between now and the end of the regular season. And the reason why I bring that up is we have somebody out there in Zach Ertz who was just released by the Arizona Cardinals last week. You got some playoff contenders that are looking at him. Obviously, a lot of familiarity with the Philadelphia Eagles because this is a team that drafted him and brought him into the NFL. Zach Ertz could be a missing ingredient for this Eagles offense because so much attention is put on Devonta Smith and AJ Brown. And having the injury to your tight end right now, if you're Philadelphia, you need a veteran, excuse me, like Zach Ertz, who knows this system to come back in there and really give you some more depth. So it's going to be very interesting to see if Philadelphia picks him up this week. And it's going to be very interesting to see if another contender possibly goes out there and picks up Zach Ertz altogether. But there's no love lost between the Eagles and Niners, two of the best teams in the NFL. And I could understand why there's no love lost because both of these teams, there can only be one alpha at the top. And NFC wise, Philadelphia is currently the kings of the mountain. San Francisco wants to get there, and obviously they know in order to do it, they've got to go through Philly. But if you look at San Francisco, two of the biggest contenders in the NFC so far this season. And the 49ers have not only beaten them, they've embarrassed them. They've embarrassed the Dallas Cowboys earlier this season. They embarrassed the Philadelphia Eagles today. And this San Francisco 49ers team, as long as they stay healthy, I'm not going to just say that they're a tough out. I think that they could be the team to beat in the NFC. I know it's still the beginning of December. We've got a lot of football ahead of us. But nonetheless, on the NFC side, I think it really comes down to two teams. It comes down to San Francisco. It comes down to Philadelphia. Dallas is racking up the wins, but they have yet to prove that they can consistently beat the San Franciscos and the Philadelphias in the world in those key games. And again, it comes down to the quarterback play because Dak Prescott has not shown that he can be that guy in those key moments. So when it's all said and done, I think the NFC still comes down to San Francisco and Philadelphia. But nonetheless, the 49ers hopped on the plane, went cross country, made a statement. Granted, it's not going to bring back what happened in January at the same stadium in the NFC Championship game. But nonetheless, these current Niners have served notice that they're going to be more than just a tough out. They might have what it takes this time around to win the NFC and even possibly the Super Bowl. So, folks, that is going to wrap it up. And as always, I want to take this time out to thank you for tuning into the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast here on YouTube. I want to take this time out to thank all of you fine folks out there for tuning in. And if you have not already, please feel free to subscribe to this channel. Now, if you're on the X, formerly known as Twitter, please feel free to follow me at 300 Pounds of Sports. And like I always say, if you follow me, it'll be my pleasure to follow you right back. There's also the sports discussion group on Facebook at the Sports Depot 365. Now, you can check it out. Drop a line and be a part of one of the better sports debating sites going on social media. So, once again, fine folks, my name is William Martin, and I am signing off. And I'm saying take care and have yourselves a wonderful day.